What's up, everybody? We are live, and we got a couple quick things to talk about today. We're going to have a solo episode. It's going to be a little bit shorter than usual, I think, but we got a few things that I want to hit real quick, just kind of surface level stuff. One of the big ones trending out there today is Gavin Newsom and his new map that he claims he's going to unveil to us soon. I thought we were going to get to see it today. Apparently, he hasn't even shared with his party how he wants to gerrymander California. He thinks that he can make California a completely Democrat state in terms of the House of Representatives. He wants to eliminate every single Republican district, which is obviously crazy. And we're going to get into why he wants to do that. But let me be clear. Both parties gerrymander their states, okay? But the Democrats are much better at gerrymandering right now. Let me give you a list of states here. I got this list that shows, you can tell if a state is gerrymandered, first of all, because when we have like a presidential vote, if a state, let's say 50% of people in a state vote for the Republican candidate, but they only win, let's say 30% of the House races, you know that there's some gerrymandering going on there because 50% of the people are Republicans, yet they're only represented by 30% of that state's allotment of House representatives. So you know there's some funky drawing going on. And the way that the Democrats do this is that they will draw this big area, rural area with a lot of Republican voters. Usually it'll be like 40% of the district will be this rural Republican area. And then there'll be this little finger that sneaks into a large city, okay? And that's where 60% of the people live who vote Democrat. Okay. So then what you have is this district, okay, that will vote safely Democrat every time, but it takes enough Republicans out of the voter pool to where if they keep doing this, what they can do is they can make sure that very few Republicans actually get a Republican representative. So you could imagine it this way. If you imagine a district that let's say there's, I don't want to throw numbers at you guys off the top of my head here, but let's say it was 50-50, okay, Republicans and Democrats in a state, and the state gets 5 representatives, okay? If you were going to draw the lines and you wanted to gerrymander it, what you could do is you could draw one district that's almost completely Republican, okay? So you take out a large chunk of Republican voters, they get their one representative, okay? But every other district is drawn 60-40 in favor of Democrats. So what you would get is 4 Democrat representatives, 1 Republican, but the state's 50-50 because of how you divvied up the pie there. And so let me give you a list of states where this is the case. So Massachusetts, 36% Republican. So they voted 36% of their residents voted for Trump, 0 seats in the House of Representatives, Republicans. Connecticut, 42% Republican, 0 seats. Maine, 46% Republican, 0 seats. New Mexico, 46% Republican, 0 seats. New Hampshire, 48% Republican, 0 seats. Rhode Island, 42% Republican, 0 seats. Vermont, 32% Republican, but 0 seats. Hawaii, 38% Republican, 0 seats. And Delaware, 42% Republican, yet 0 seats in the House. The Democrats are way better at gerrymandering, okay? Illinois is another one. There's not 0 seats, but it's like that state's like 40% Republican, and like 3 of the 17 seats go to Republicans. I mean, and J.B. Pritzker, the governor there, has been called out several times for it. He just dodges it. If you haven't had a chance, look up the map of Illinois' congressional districts. Or even look at Maryland. Maryland is another one, just god awful districts. Okay. Their Republicans there are completely disenfranchised, but they want to stand up and say, oh, Texas wants to gerrymander. This is out of control. They're anti-democracy. They're all these things, but they're the biggest hypocrites of all, of course. So all this is the background for Texas wanting to redistrict. And they openly say they're going to eliminate some Democrat seats. So what Gavin Newsom has said is if Texas does this, he's going to gerrymander his state and eliminate every Republican seat, like what a ton of other states that I just read off have already done. So, as you know, full disclosure here, Californian, this is one of the most reprehensible things that a state government could do. And here's why. I'll tell you. What Gavin Newsom is saying he's going to do is if another state, Texas, disenfranchises its voters, he is going to seek retribution against Californians. He is going to punish California Republicans for something that happened in another state that California Republicans had no say in. A government, any democratic government, okay, derives all of its power from the people. From its one job is to stand up for its citizens. If a government openly says it's going to betray its citizens for another group of people, that government's no longer legitimate. Okay, it's lost its mandate. It has no legitimate right to govern anymore if it openly says it is not going to act in the interest of its people. If Gavin Newsom came out and just said, and the polls back this up, if he came out and just said, we want to redistrict, we're playing hardball politics, blah, 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 it'd be unpopular. Okay. But when they did a poll and they just found this among independents, that explanation, we're going to redistrict just because of hardball politics, that's the way it's going to be, is more popular than the explanation of, well, Texas is disenfranchising their Democrats, so we're going to disenfranchise our Republicans. Independents find that explanation to be completely reprehensible as well. And you can see why. It feels so much more disgusting to say you're going to abuse your own citizens for the sake of some other people that your citizens had no say in, some event they didn't get to vote in. California Republicans don't get to vote on Texas maps. Okay. So why would you take retribution against California Republicans? That's the actual Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. He owes a duty to every single Californian. And to betray that duty and disenfranchise Californians over what's happening to people in another state is terrible. It makes his government illegitimate because you don't get to betray the minority in your state for some population that you owe nothing to. Gavin Newsom does not owe the people of Texas anything. Okay, they did not elect him. We did. Californians did. So coming out and punishing Californians, okay, for something happening in another state completely out of bounds, cannot be allowed. And these polls, I'm seeing here, it's unpopular. He wants to take this new map that hasn't been unveiled yet to the voters, I guess, in November and have them vote on it. Right now, it looks like he would lose. Californians and Democrats in California are rightly pointing out, hey, if Republicans are gerrymandering and we gerrymander, don't we lose the moral high ground? The answer is yes, of course, obviously. But then there's also the end game here. You play this out. If you did this in every state, Democrats don't have much room to work with. They've already gerrymandered their states a lot. Republicans have a lot to gain. Texas, Florida, there could be more gerrymandering done to gain more Republican seats in these states. Democrats have already gerrymandered Republican seats out of existence in most of the states where they can. So they don't have far to escalate. But the whole thing is just, it's really sick. For any of you guys that are outside of California listening to this, when Gavin Newsom runs for president, and he will, he's got to be stopped. He is the biggest slime ball. He does not give a single shit about the people he represents. He does not care about Californians. That's why the streets are full of homeless people. Okay. He'll argue to you that Californians should be sleeping outside because somehow that's the moral high ground. And if you're some evil Republican that wants to get these people help in a mental institution, then, how dare anybody hold that point of view? He will stand there and, in his ivory tower and tell you you're some kind of asshole for wanting these mentally ill people off the streets. He'll tell you they actually belong, in the gutter, taking a shit, shooting up drugs in front of your kids. That's the morally righteous thing to do. He's got everything so twisted, okay, that he will punish Californians for something Texans are doing. That's what he would do. If he's elected president, he would betray America at the first chance he got for some global leftist agenda that he's got. Just like he's doing here in California. He completely betrayed his own electorate for some people he owes nothing to. He cannot be allowed to have any power outside of California. Thankfully, he can't run here anymore. He cannot win the presidency in 2028. He would destroy this country. Please take it from a Californian. He is the absolute worst. Do not let him fool you going on these podcasts. He's a smooth talker, and that is it. He is a deeply, deeply evil politician that cannot be allowed to touch the Oval Office. So we'll bring more to you when these maps are unveiled and we know a little bit more of what his actual strategy is going to be. But man, keep an eye on this guy because he is truly a sick person. Let's jump over to, here's a story that I wanted to cover real quick. It didn't get a lot of hype in the news. I don't think a lot of people know what to do with it. Brazil, which is run by a socialist, Lula. We're going to get into him a little bit. But Brazil decided that in order to deal with America's 50% tariff that's been leveled against them for all the crap, authoritarian leftist shit they've been doing over there, we're leveling a 50% tariff against their exports. They are coming up with a $5.5 billion subsidy for their exporters. So what they're essentially going to do, okay, and it doesn't quite work like this in effect, but functionally what they are going to do is pay the tariff up to $5.5 billion for their exporters. That way, the Brazilian companies don't have to raise prices in the United States at all or as much as they typically would, could still be competitive here in the United States. So why is that a big deal? Well, we've been told that tariffs are just passed on to the American consumer. That it's really Americans that just pay the tariffs. And in this scenario, that is not true. The Brazilian government is going to be paying $5.5 billion of tariffs. That's going to go right into the government coffers. Okay. And that's $5.5 billion that prices will not be raised on you, the consumer. So this is a big deal. Because if the government wanted to raise more money to pay off our debts and decided they had two options, they could raise the income tax where 100% of that money comes from Americans, or they could institute a tariff where at least a part of that burden would be borne by foreign countries, be it their exporters or, their government, like in Brazil's case. Anytime we have a portion of government revenues coming from the foreign countries, foreign exports, that is a good thing. That is better than it coming straight from Americans in the form of an income tax or a sales tax, something like that. So if we start seeing this model more where other countries are going to be subsidizing the exporters in their countries, that is a good thing. That keeps prices low for Americans and it keeps the tariff revenue coming in. That is the best of both worlds. So you're probably asking why? Why would a country do this? Well, number one, if their economy is really reliant on exports to the United States, which a lot of countries are, it's important to help these businesses stay competitive in the United States. So there's a country like Brazil really has no choice but to help subsidize these goods flowing out of their country in order to keep those parts of their economy from collapsing, those industries. Otherwise, a lot of people could be out of jobs there, and then it could lead to a recession. So this is a good thing. This is one of those scenarios that we probably didn't imagine when the tariffs were first unveiled. We keep hearing about how bad all these tariffs are. And in general, again, blanket tariffs are a bad thing. But in this scenario we've got right here, this is best case scenario for American tariffs. And now I said we'd get into Lula a little bit. So you would think, can't he negotiate a better deal? Can't he do all these other things? Maybe there'd be a better way to help his companies stay competitive. And there probably are. But he's a socialist. He doesn't understand economics. Not well, at least. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. This feels like a poor move on the part of the government of Brazil. But we'll see how this plays out. I would love to get an economist on here to talk with me about all the different ways the countries are dealing with tariffs, because I was hard on the tariffs in the beginning, and I still am. Just because we haven't seen inflation yet does not mean that we're in the clear. I think that if we're going to see inflation from tariffs, we could still be a year out before we see all the effects there. But we haven't seen an increase in inflation so far. We're seeing stuff like this, where foreign countries are subsidizing they're paying the tariff, and prices aren't skyrocketing here. So we're going to see, I want you guys to know the field of economics is really a burgeoning field. Again, I know I've said before, we don't know shit about economics. There is no economist out there that thinks they've got it all figured out. Not even close. So I'm curious to see where all this leads. We're going to stick with a lot of these economic stories, trade stories with the tariffs, because I think when people look back on this era, that's going to be the story. In 100 years, they will look back on this trade dynamic and say, wow, economically, this period is a really interesting case study. And hopefully we come out of it with some concrete answers on tariffs and trade policy. It's not clear right now. It's anything but clear. If you're listening to this in 50 or 100 years or something, it's not obvious that these tariffs are going to be really good or really bad right now. So we'll see. It is a story we are going to stick with for you guys. All right. I thought I had one more little thing. Oh, yeah. Somebody trolled Gavin Newsom and sent him a Trump 2028 hat. Newsom's freaking out about how democracy is going to be over. Trump's going to run again, but as if we've never had a 3-term president before. Newsflash, we have. It did not end democracy. Not a good thing. I don't want Trump to run again. I don't think we should have 3-term presidents, but Gavin Newsom's own party had a 3-term president less than 100 years ago. But whatever. Let me play Newsom freaking out right over here.
Wake up, America. Wake up. You will not have a country if he rigs this election. You will have a president who will be running for a 3rd term. Mark my word. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that I received in the mail a Trump 2028 hat from one of his biggest supporters. These guys are not screwing around. The rules do not apply to him. The most corrupt president in history. He doesn't believe in free enterprise, crony capitalism. He is wrecking this country, wrecking the economy. He's a lawless president. Wake up, America. Wake up to what's going on. Wake.
Shout out. I would like to think that it was one of you guys, one of the listeners that sent him that 2028 hat. Shout out to you guys. Good for you. Gavin Newsom's an idiot. He thinks that someone sending him a 2028 hat means Trump's running in 2028. I mean, whatever. The guy's a moron, but epic troll. Good job, guys. Let's take one last look here, because I thought we had one more quick thing to discuss, but nope. It's nothing that cannot be put off until next week. I know this was a short one, guys. We are going to bring the co-host back. We're going to have some longer episodes for you coming up. Thanks for sticking with me here. I know this summer it is tough to get these all cranked out, but I appreciate it.